I was born into the circle. I didn't choose it. None of us did. Choice was never part of the equation. The circle, it was all I knew. They said we were the chosen ones, the only ones who saw the world for what it really was. Corrupt, broken, sick. Outsiders were blind, they said. Others were lost souls who wandered the world in ignorance of how close we all were to destruction. Not like us. We knew the truth. We were special. The rituals were fun. Candles, chanting, cuts on our hands, prayers in languages none of us kids understood. The adults always talked about the Great One. Over time, I learned this was the demon who would come when we had all proved ourselves worthy to receive its blessing. The adults said the Great One would come and grant us everything we wanted when we had proven ourselves pure and responsible enough to reshape the world and make it better for all. I believed them. Every word. Why wouldn't I? They were my parents, my teachers, my aunts and uncles. By blood and not, they were my whole world. I thought they wanted the Great One to come. That was the goal, right? That was why we bled. That was why we burned things. That was why I wasn't allowed to have friends outside the circle or go to school or read unapproved books. That's why we held vigils in the dark until our knees went numb. It's why I didn't even know what a phone or the internet was until I left and joined the impure world they warned me about. But the adults never took that final step. They never summoned the Great One to judge us. As far as I could see, we had met all the criteria. We were devout. We did everything asked of us. We were as worthy as we were ever going to get. And while they waited, the world outside the circle compound continued to decay. So when I was 10, I did it for them. I took the holy book, the one the adults only took out when the new moon was high and everyone had to be silent for fear of being overheard by lesser spirits. I had been trained in how to read the old tongue during Sunday school, so I could properly say my prayers. I found the passage on how to summon the Great One to judge us and read the words aloud, alone in the chapel. I thought it would make the circle adults proud. I thought they would see me, their little prophet, more devoted than anyone else, and they would thank me. The Great One did not look like the carvings on the altar. It didn't roar or spit fire as it materialized on the altar. It just suddenly was. In the shadows, behind me, inside me, everywhere, all at once. It asked me one silent question. What do you wish for, worthy child? I wished for the world to be a better place, because that's what they always said we wanted. A better, cleaner, purer world, devoid of all the corruption and depravity that was making it impossible for kids like me to live in. Granted, said the Great One, and then, just as suddenly as it wasn't. The next morning, all the adults in the circle were dead. Every single one of them. Blood ran from their eyes, mouths, and ears, as if the demon had just reached inside their heads and squeezed their brains until they leaked out. The door to their dormitory was covered in deep gouges where they had worn their fingers to nubs, clawing to get out. It was only later that I realized the truth. They had never actually wanted the Great One to come. They just liked talking about it because it made them feel important to pretend they were better than everyone else. Their pride had led them to exploit the generation that came after them, twisting their own kids into hateful, scared creatures, too indoctrinated to ever realize that the depravity of the outside world could never compare with that of the circle itself. They were frauds, but I wasn't. I believed, and my belief had been enough for the Great One to listen to me and grant my wish exactly as I had worded it. Now I walk in a world without them. A better place, I suppose, or at least quieter. The compound is gone now, burned down years ago in a tragic accident that summoned authorities from the nearby town who discovered a clutch of brainwashed children watching the flames from where they had evacuated to the woods at the very edge of the property. No one ever found the holy book. I'm not 10 anymore. I've had time to think about everything, to turn it over in my mind like a stone you find in your shoe, something small but sharp enough to make you bleed if you forget it's there. The Circle were liars. All of them. They never wanted the Great One. They wanted the idea of the demon. They wanted to be the ones who could summon it, not the ones who actually would. They didn't want change, they just wanted to feel like gods in a room full of candles and scared, abused children. I wonder sometimes what the Great One thought of me back then. This wide-eyed little kid, so earnest, so obedient, wanted nothing more than to make his family proud and improve a world they weren't even allowed to live in. I asked for the world to be made a better place because I thought that's what they wanted. I didn't know better meant without them, or that world was limited to my world. The only world I knew up to that point. I live with that now, every day. I wake up and I wonder if I did the right thing. I go to work, buy groceries, talk to people, and I watch the world around me with the kind of fascination that only comes from someone introduced to it far too late to accept it on the face value. I don't believe politicians. I don't trust authorities. Been there, done that, got the memories of the bloody dormitory. I watch the news and read the papers. I avoid social media after realizing what a cesspool it is. I've tried to hold on to the fact that people are intrinsically good, deep down, but as I get older and the world gets harsher, I find it harder to keep that in my mind. Every time a cop shoots an unarmed victim, or a rapist walks free, or a politician lies and gets rewarded for it, or a good person dies because their health insurance decides it's too expensive to pay for their survival, I wonder whether I would make the choice I did back then, over again, out here, in the world outside the Circle. The Great One doesn't whisper into my mind as much as these days. It doesn't have to. It has been with me since that night, watching the world alongside me. We are in agreement about a few things. Because I understand now. The power wasn't in the rituals or the prayers or the cuts on our hands. The power was in belief. In wanting something so badly you're willing to tear the world apart to get it. They were too afraid to cross that line. I wasn't. And sometimes, when the nights get too quiet, I still feel that old urge deep in my bones. The itch to believe again. Because the world could always be a better place. And I'm still here. And I still remember the words in the holy book.